advise you to do all the time, no matter who it is that's offering you a contract, who it is that's offering to help you, no matter what stage it is, whether it's editing, book cover design, look at your contracts, guys. I can't stress enough, read your contracts, make sure that you're happy with the price, that you know exactly what you're paying for, how long it's going to take, how long they'll be in touch with you, because I've seen some horror stories where people will pay for editing, send their book over, and a year later, not a word has been touched. So it's all about the contract, okay? Make sure as well that your contract is per UK terms. So if you look at any of my contracts, for example, it will always say that it's in line with UK law. So no matter who it is I'm working with, whichever country they're in, if they sign that contract and they break it, it's as per UK law and not US law, which works in a different way to ours. So that's something else to look out for.
With my contract, really?
It can be very sneaky, so what I advise you all to do is pick up the phone and speak to somebody. My company, like I said, it's run just by me, so you can imagine how busy I am every day. I'm like, phones. But just pick up the phone, and genuine people will be more than happy to sit down with you and discuss exactly what it is, answer all your questions. They'll be there 24/7 for you, and you know, that's the sort of company you want to work with. You want to make sure that if you have any worries, any concerns, any problems, that there's somebody at the other end of that email within 48 hours, or somebody on the other line of a phone within working hours, because let's not bring people in the middle of the night, guys, you know, that can sort it for you. And that's the sort of comfort that we want with a company. If you're not going to do it yourself, that is. Sorry, I'm going red, and it's not because I'm warm and I do a lot of this. So, I'm sorry if I'm cherry coloured.
Because I think they're quite, I haven't fallen to it or anything, but I think they're quite sneaky as well, because they advertise in a lot of writing magazines, but they don't make it clear that they're different to the other.
But you know, on the other side as well, I've also seen celebrities go with companies that are effectively vanity presses. I've also seen people do very well through vanity presses. So it's in here on one of the slides. It is basically your own personal taste. If you don't want any involvement and you just want to hand it over to somebody and say, sort that for us, well, here's £1,000 to do it, that's fine. They'll be perfect for you if that's what you wanted. But if you want a lot of control and a lot of involvement, then maybe not the best step to go down. But there's a slide at the end as well about how to avoid vanity presses, so we'll get into that.
You'll probably cover that. I was going to say, how would you identify what a vanity press is?
Don't worry, it's one of the last slides. It's like a bonus bit at the end. I will cover it, I promise.
It's one of the stars.
We'll put vanity press to one side for now, because it's stressing me out just thinking about it. It makes me mad. It makes me mad. So what is the industry all about? This is the fourth stage. Now, I personally feel if you're going to publish a book, you need to know exactly what you're doing. You need to know what your editor's going to be doing, you need to know what a book cover designer does, what the industry average is to be paying. Because if your editor comes to you and says, that will be £20,000 please, and you have absolutely no idea that editing for a book that size will cost you a maximum of £1,000, you're going to be paying ridiculous amounts for not much work. You also need to know exactly what they're going to do to that manuscript. Even though I don't expect you all to be editors, and I don't expect you all to sit down and study what they're going to do, you need to have a basic outline of what a copy editor does, what a developmental editor does, what they're going to be looking for, so that when it comes back to you, you will be able to understand how much work has gone in. Your first ever book that's been edited, and the first time it's edited, if it's not absolutely coated in red pen, be concerned. Because as good as your book might be, every person that you pass that book to will see it in a different light. They'll find things in it that they don't particularly like. So, again, editing is really subjective. It is really, really subjective. I could edit something and say that needs to come out. You can't put that in a book, it won't sell. And another editor will go, that's fine, leave it in. So the more people you can get to read it, and the more types of editors you can get with various experience, particularly in the genres that you're writing. If you write fantasy, get an editor that's got some experience with fantasy, so they know what they're looking for. So it really is important to make sure that you know the various jobs and roles that go on, purely because we don't want you to get scammed. We don't want anybody to take advantage of you as a new author with less knowledge than somebody that's been in the business, say 20 years. So it is really, really important to know what goes on behind those scenes. So a little task I've got for you here is just in your own time or while I'm talking, it's completely up to you, just Google what's generally expected to appear on the book cover that you're thinking of producing. If you write romance, have a look at what sort of things you would expect to see on a romance cover. What sells on a romance cover? Half-naked men in sweaty positions, you know, that sort of... We're talking more erotica there, but fantasy, you know...
If you edit there, your mucky mind will get up the head.
not a word.
We're starting a bit of a theme here, aren't we? We're dirty books. Whoever's watching this video later is going to be thinking, I'm not going to one of their classes again, all they do is talk about sex. But okay, so...
You might get more.
But I might get more people wrong, going to one of her, all she does is talk about sex.
Everyone wanted to do 50 Shades of Grey. I think she must be rolling in it.
Well, you know, sex sells, doesn't it? Let's not. I'm going red now, you're making me That's not the heat, that's just you guys. So, okay, so yeah, that's just your little task. You can do it now, you can do it later on. I'm not going to force you to do it now because it might take you a while. This is because I want you to edit your own work before you send it to anybody, and that is because you need to know what you're doing. You need to know what your editor's going to look for. If you just write your first draft and send it to an editor, and believe me, I have seen my fair share of manuscripts that have clearly just come from the first draft where they've whacked out a load of words in 20 minutes and sent me it. It is painful. And it's also more money for them because it takes me longer to do it. It means more effort, more involvement. So self-edit your book. I have a six read rule is basically edit your book a minimum, guys, of 6 times. And that sounds like an awful lot.
It is.
But it is an awful lot. But if you're looking at something different every time, and if you're putting it away for a couple of days between, it's not so bad. If you were just doing chain reading, one after the other, you're going to be sick of your own words after a while. Which is probably when you need to be sending it to somebody else, because your eyes will skip over the words. You'll be reading ahead before your eyes are actually reading the words. You know your story, you know what happens. So you're going to know when you're reading a certain paragraph what happens in that paragraph. And because of that, you miss things. Yes?
A bit of advice that I was given, if you've got Microsoft Word and a speak facility, block out a paragraph and get it spoken to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that can bring up errors that your eyes haven't seen. So
absolutely. Reading the story backwards, and I don't mean the words backwards, but chapters backwards, because you're not reading the story as you're expecting it to go. In your mind you're thinking chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Read it 3, 2, 1. And then you can't skip ahead because there's nothing to skip ahead to, you're going backwards. That was told to me once and I tried it, and you know, it actually works. It does work. Try reading it backwards. I'm not suggesting you read read it actual backwards, but read your chapters in a different order to the way you would usually read it. Also think about proofreaders, beta readers. Does anybody not know what a beta reader is? No. Okay? Beta readers are basically friends, family, people that have written books before in that genre that will read it and tell you what they think for free. They're not editors, although they might spot a final spelling mistake somewhere, you know, if you've left in, I don't know, you've used the wrong there and there. I'm sure if they pick up on it, they will tell you. But these guys are going to tell you from a reader's perspective if it's crap. And they will be honest, hopefully. So don't give it to your mum, don't give it to your daughter. Give it to somebody who's not going to think, I can't tell her what I think because I'll upset her. Give it to somebody who thinks, I don't care if I upset her, it will crap. You know? So, as brutal as it sounds, that's what you want, because you need to know if there's something in there that's offensive, that, you know, if you're writing, a good example, I wrote a book about 9/11. It's at the back, it's No Fin and the Art of Suicide. It's not only about suicide, but it's set on 9/11. So I needed to make sure, exactly, cringe, that face there. So I gave it to people that lived in New York, writers that lived in New York, and said, does this offend you? And a lot of them came back and went, no, why would that offend me? Well, because we're talking about the collapse of the Twin Towers here, and I wanted to make sure that I got the figures right of the number of people that had died, because I thought, God forbid I get that wrong. And actually, this is a true story, even I've done this, when I was releasing the book in 2018, I got it all the way to print, ordered my 50 copies for an event that I was doing, and I was watching a programme on 9/11, and you know when you get that feeling in your stomach that something's wrong? The whole book had been edited perfectly, smashing on the inside. On the back cover was the wrong name of the airline. I got the wrong airline. I think I put American Airlines, and it wasn't. And I had to ring the printers and say, stop everything, do not print anything else, because that would have seriously caused some, you know, I'd have been getting people come to me and say, how dare you, you know, and it was a genuine little mistake, but had I caught that earlier, so again, editing, guys, I cannot stress to you enough, especially if it's facts and figures, editing.
I think editing takes longer than writing the book.
It does.
It does.
You know, it does. And you think, I've said this so many times. I've only wrote this I've wrote 2 books now. And this one I thought, it's a children's one which won't published. And I don't know how many times it's been edited now. Yeah. And you think, this took longer than writing the book, the story. You know,
it does. But think about NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. If none of you have done it, give it a go. It's so much fun, so stressful, but so much fun. You get 30 days to write 50,000 words, yeah? Sign up for free, you can do it for free. If you win, and I say win, if you get to your 50,000 words, they give you some codes and stuff for some freebies and some money off some writing programs and stuff like that. So it is worth doing, but think about that. You write a book in 30 days, you don't edit it in 30 days.
No.
Just done 20,000 in 10 days.
That's pretty good. 20,000 words in 10 days.
20 days.
Okay,
Under pressure.
very good. Well, if that's the sort of speed that you can write at, NaNoWriMo might be just up your alley.
Right, I must do it. I keep meaning to every month.
So I'm going to bring up this link just so that we don't have problems with laptops, but this is what you should be looking at for editing fees. So this is just a guideline.